Welcome back, my friends. Today I have a special guest. You know that I have a Mythic Legends project on this channel, and this interview is a part of this project because this guy is a mytho himself because creates some awesome character, brand new character for the mythos, my friends. I give you the one and the only, Jeremy Girard. Welcome, Jeremy. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me tonight.
And thank you to be in my show. And before to start to talk about your custom and everything about your legacy in the Mythic Legions, I want to share with you and with everyone a consideration about Mythic Legions. And I think also because of that, we have in the Mythic Legions community a great artist like you. Because only when you get a figure of Mythic Legion, I believe you can understand what is this line. Because it's not a typical action figure. It's not like every other type of action figure that we know, including the awesome figure that for Horsemen did for Master of the Universe and other stuff. Because I believe that with Mythic Legion, finally for Horsemen, uh, get a way to get free their creativity. And these figures are so cool because, first of all, when you get for the first time a figure, what happened to me, for example, I was excited and surprised because the package, for example, are collector friendly. And when you get the figure of the Mythic Legions, you understand that the people behind are also collector, not just a toy business. Collector because the details of the figure of Mythic Legions in general are unbelievable. And I remember the first time that I saw my first figures of this line, looks like, because they are also so real, it looks like to see some monster character jump out for the screen from some movie. And it is unbelievable. And when I showed this figure with my girlfriend, my mother, my brother, everybody was surprised for that because in general was they knows the action figure like a toys or adult collector, but still a toys. Mythic Legions is totally different because they are a piece of art, in my opinion. And when also, for example, the articulation respect perfectly the design, the sculpt, because sometimes we have in the other line many articulation, but less respect for the sculpt, for the figure, for the design, and because of that, they looks like a toys, just like a toys. The Mythic Legions not. Also, the skin of the armor, for example, looks like metallic, real metallic, not plastic. And when I showed the first picture to my mother, or she told me, but this is metallic. No, it's plastic, because are in unbelievable detail. And also they are so creative with this line. And you understand they are the artists behind that because it's so creative. I remember Lord Bateris, for example, for the helmet, you have many options.
Yep.
Open helmet, closed helmet, helmet with the plume, helmet with the horns, everything. And also you have a bunch of accessories, and every time you are in trouble to decide which accessory is displayed because we have a lot of accessories. If because of that, start in my mind to create a project with story. I create my two personal faction will be coming soon, stop motion, not just review and unboxing. And everything started because I recently started this collection. I'm still very excited for that because when I made my interview with Corboy, I know before what is Mythic Legion, but I start to understand what it is. And Corboy told me a lot of that, showed me some stroll during the interview. And he told me also another things that I like so much for that, the different size of the character. Because we have the goblin, the dwarf, the human, the elf, the ogre style, the troll, different size, the thing that I like so much. For example, when I did some custom of the WWF Azrael in my collection, with my friends is a sculptor, I saw, every time I told to him, I want the proportion. Big John Studd is taller than Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Respect that. To me, is most important than ever. And for example, the Hasbro original on the Mattel WWE don't respect that. You see a tugboat like a slim guy, the same size of a small guy. It's not good. Mythic Legion have this awesome choice to have the different size for every character. And also, if you compare to Thor, for example, Thor Redfin is taller than Kim Brandon, for example. A little bit taller because the shape is not the same. You haven't the same things, the same size for everybody. And later at my interview of Cornball, I had a dream. In that dream, I remember I had many Mythic Legions. And what happened? I never had a Mythic Legions. The day after, I started to watch every character in the For Horsemen website, and I decided to create my project of, because I like write story, I'm a writer, to create a project of stop motion, and a secret project that will be revealed after many review. Because when you watch a figure like that, you start to imagine a story. It's unbelievable. And it's the reason why I believe in this Mythic Legions community, we have an unbelievable artist like you. Because my friends, Jeremy, did an awesome custom. Awesome custom. Looks like to see a new wave, a new faction official because of the quality of your custom. And now this is the first question for you. All start because now I told you my story with Mythic Legion. But now I want to understand, I want to discover your story with Mythic Legion. All start your passion with Mythic Legions. And what is your first figure that you get for this awesome line?
Sure. So I was aware of the Four Horsemen back when they were working at McFarlane Toys. I've been collecting toys for 20-something years. So when they were working back at McFarlane, some of the first toys that I ever collected were the Spawn line. So I got a lot of those early Spawn figures, which the Four Horsemen were instrumental in. When they went and they opened their own studio and they started doing some of their own products, some of their older series like Seventh Kingdom and Gothropolis, I picked those up. I bought those, and they were some of my favorite figures. So I was already very familiar with the company when they did the first Kickstarter for Mythic Legions. So I backed that initial Kickstarter, and it was funny because as they were doing the Kickstarter, I kept changing my pledge, how many figures I wanted, because they kept adding more and more figures. And I went from, I'm going to get these 6 to, I'm going to get these 10 to, I'm going to get these 15. And before you knew it, I had bought probably 50 figures from that first wave. So I backed that and I was waiting for them to come in. But before they even shipped, you asked the question, the first figure I got in hand, they did a limited sale of what they call test shots. So test shots are figures, they're the same figures, but they're all in gray. They're what the factories use to send the studio so the studio can see how the sculpture actually looks. There's no paint on it or anything. They almost look like statues. And they did a very limited amount of those, only 10 of each character for that first wave. So that was the first figures I got. I got those right around the holidays, a few months before the actual production figures shipped. And I think the first one I actually opened was a knight character called Sir Galeron. And again, it was all one color, but even then, just looking at that, seeing the articulation, seeing how it all laid out, I was so incredibly excited. And even back then, I started popping the pieces and swapping them around. So even from that earliest stage, I was getting into the idea of swapping them around and customizing.
Okay, I have also a message for everybody that I see some message in the chat. In the end of the interview, if you have some question to Jeremy, put the question and Jeremy will be happy to answer your question.
Absolutely.
Okay, and now, and what is the moment that you understand that you want to create something personal for the Mythic Legions, something new, because you create that? What is the moment that you understand, yes, this line is awesome, I like the situation that you can pop out the part and create something different, but maybe you thought that it's not enough to you because I need to create something again, not just to to mesh up the part of the character, the official character, but it is a new character. What is the first time that you understand that you want more for you?
So when I first got the figures in, I had already planned out some simple swaps. So like one of the first things I did was there was a vampire called Carpathius, and there was a red suit of vampire armor called Vorgus. So I took the vampire head and I put it on the red armor, kind of like a Dracula type thing. And that was a simple part swap. And then I started doing more of that. But the first one I actually painted was a genie character. Early on in the line when they were advertising it, I really got it in my head that they were going to do a genie. And I looked at the orc. The character was Urzok, the bare-faced orc. And I said, you know what? If they painted that blue, that would really look like a cool genie character. They didn't do that. The character that was blue was Zazar the demon, but I couldn't get it out of my head. So when I got them in hand, that was the first one that I actually painted. I put the orc head, and all I did was paint it blue to match the body of the blue demon Zazar. But it looked like it fit. Like when I put it side by side with my other Mythic Legions, it looked like it belonged there. And that was the first point for me that I said, wait, this is something that I can do. I can expand on this line, because I grew up playing like Dungeons and Dragons. So I loved this idea of a huge fantasy world with all these different races and kinds of characters. So early on in Mythic Legions, they only had given us so much. Now they've expanded on that greatly in the years since. But initially, that's why I started customizing, was because I was impatient and I wanted to have all these different kinds of monsters and characters and heroes. I wanted them. I didn't have them yet, so I made them for myself.
Okay, I understand also your feeling about the relation with Dungeons and Dragons, because to me, for example, I was a player of HeroQuest, another game that is related to the orc, the ogre, the many stuff that before, if you was before in that part of in this type of board game or game in general, the Mythic Legions is a dream come true, because it's like to have in your hands in big styles, because other cool things that you have big, huge figures. Therefore, it's so cool for that. You mean also, you talks about also about Urzok. Now, find a Urzok today is so hard.
Yeah, I know.
The price is unbelievable. In my opinion, the destiny of Urzok will be the same of Vortok, in my opinion. Because Vortok is another awesome orc. My favorite reality wave, because this type of orc, and you don't understand, maybe you don't realize when you get in the beginning, this character becomes so rare in the future. But therefore, the good way is go to the Horsemen in the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, I'm lucky that I got in very early. So, I mean, I ripped apart figures back then, 5 years ago, that are worth $200-300 today, and a lot of the other customizers did that as well. We had no idea these figures were going to catch on the way they did. These figures were going to be as hard to find as they were. The reality is, back then when that first wave shipped out, the community collecting these things was so much smaller than it is today. So I still meet people who are toy collectors that don't know what Mythic Legions is. As big as the community's become, as passionate as it's become, there's still people that have never heard of it. If you can imagine it being even less people back when that first wave hit, it can kind of give you a sense of how low production numbers those early figures were, and therefore how hard it is today to find an Urzok or an Otho or a Sir Valgard. A lot of those early figures, there's just not a lot of them on the market.
Yes, also Thord Iron Jaw, the dwarf.
Thord's another one, yeah.
Also a Golden Tooth, Almir Golden Tooth, another dwarf that I like. It's difficult. Okay, but I went Oh, guys, if you go to the Mythic Custom website, you can understand better what is also the story, the character that Jeremy created for his project. And what is the first character that you created in your Mythic Legions custom project? The first ever character?
For myself, it was the genie. So that genie was the first character that I created, that I painted, using Mythic Legion's parts. Since that time, early on, I was just using Mythic Legion's pieces and repainting them. And then I started using other toy lines. So, like, for instance, Masters of the Universe Classics. Because Four Horsemen Studios had a huge hand in Masters of the Universe Classics, I always felt like some of those parts, it was almost like a sister line to Mythic Legions. So I could use some of those parts with Mythic Legions, and they actually fit. And I used parts from other lines as well. I used pieces from Lord of the Rings, all these different lines. But in the last year or so, I've taken another step where I realized that I wanted to make creations that I couldn't find the parts for. So there's been such a rise in 3D printing and 3D sculpting, people actually making add-ons for Mythic Legions that go with them, that I decided to start doing some of that and designing some parts and working with a team of people that can not only sculpt and print, and then I can paint them, and we can actually offer them to other Mythic Legions fans. So that's completely opened up the customizing world in a bigger way to me, because now if I can think of something and I want to create it and it doesn't exist, I can work with people to actually make that from scratch to build that out for my customs.
Okay, just speculation. Imagine a big play set for the Mythic Legions like the Snake Mountain.
Yeah.
Should be very cool. Maybe in the future, never say never.
A lot of people have asked for it. I've never been a playset guy. And it's a space issue. I've got so much on display that, as gorgeous as like Castle Grayskull or Snake Mountain is, they're incredibly impressive pieces, but I worry about where I'd actually put it. My big thing, I really want the studio to do an actual dragon, and they've been teasing a dragon for years. They've been saying, yeah, we're going to get to it. We're going to get to a dragon. Even that, I have no idea where I display, but you never know. You never know with the playset. A lot of people have asked for it, so maybe someday they'll find a way to do that.
Okay, how many Mythic Legions action figures do you have? Because I saw in your background many figures.
Include like the regular ones and my customs?
Yes, including your customs.
It's probably in the neighborhood of around 750.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, there's 176, I believe, Mythic Legions figures that have been released. And as much as I love to customize them, I love them as is. I love the line. The reason I'm excited about Mythic Legions is I love the figures themselves. So on top of all the customs I do, I have one of almost every figure in the normal version, the normal configuration. So I have all those on display, plus all the customs I've done over the years.
I think it's time for a toy room tour for your collection video.
Yeah. I did one on my YouTube channel a while ago. Like when I first started the channel, I did a tour, and then every time I go to reshoot it, it seems like I always stop myself because I know I'm just about to change the display up. Any kind of toy collection, there's constant churn where you're replacing certain things with other things. Something like Mythic Legions, when a new wave hits, the Aerithyr wave is coming out now. As soon as you get that Aerithyr wave in, you've got to make room. You've got to change the display. So every time I go to shoot a tour, I'm always like, oh, I should wait another month because I have these other figures coming in. But figures keep coming in, so I keep pushing off the video. So I've got to do it at some point for sure.
Cool. And now I believe it's time to take a closer look of these 10 customs that you chose. And I think we have some imaging, some pictures for that. It's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah, I can show those. You want me to just choose one at a time and show it?
Yes, choose you the first one you prefer, and we start. If you prefer, shows in the maybe before. I believe it's better before the pictures, and later
Okay.
we look at the figure on camera.
Okay, so show the pictures first.
See, yes,
Okay.
exactly. The picture for the first figure.
Okay, so I'll show the picture. Let me just grab that right now. There it
America.
is.
Okay.
All right, so it should be. So I was mentioning that the first custom I'd ever done was a genie, and I used one of the orc heads because that's what I had. So this is an example of that same custom that I've kind of upgraded. So because I can now do different things, there's more parts available. I work with these 3D companies. What I did was I took that blue Zazar body and some of the parts I didn't have before, I actually worked with people to make. So I designed this head. I wanted it to still have that orcish type look, but I wanted him to have like the wrapped turban type thing on. Also, I created these kind of curly shoes, these like genie-like shoes for it in this magic lamp. And then the hands, those are actually from the new set, the new Aerithere wave that's shipping with those hands and feet packs. Being able to actually use bare hands is really, really cool. So this was an example where I took my first custom I ever did for Mythic Legions, and I said, okay, if I had to redo that today with access to the ability to custom create different parts, what would I create? And that's what I did right here.
Okay, what is the name of this character?
So actually, I called this character Jajera, which is kind of a play on my name. My name is Jeremy Girard. So I kind of, back then, I didn't know that I was going to make hundreds and hundreds of customs. I thought that this was going to be kind of the one custom I did. So I did that custom. I kind of named it after myself. And he's one of the customs that's been in my collection since pretty much the earliest days.
Okay, what is the story also for this character?
So, kind of like that classic story of a genie getting trapped in the lamp and everything. I have a whole group of genie-like characters that are very much inspired by like the 1001 Nights. So I imagine them as being a very powerful race that was enslaved. He was actually tricked. This character was actually tricked into being trapped in that lamp. And then I have another character in my display that I call King Solomon. And if that kind of mythology, King Solomon has control over all of the genies. So I have a bunch of different characters that fall under this umbrella that are all kind of enslaved to this powerful master called Lord Solomon. And this character here is the most powerful of all the genies, who's trying to break free and get his freedom back.
Okay, and the name of his factions?
I don't know what faction I would put him in. I don't always put them in an exact Mythic Legions faction, because one of the things I do want to do is I don't want people to ever get confused between the work that I do as a custom and the official Mythic Legions figures. Because I do, work for the studio as their webmaster, I try to make sure that there's a very definitive line that people understand that this is one of my custom creations. This is one of my ideas. This is not like Mythic Legions canon. So I try to create things that work well in the realm of mythos without taking their original ideas and wholesale, grabbing them.
Okay, if someone wants this figure, is possible, is available, and when the people can get this figure?
So the body on this is basically just the demon Zazar, which is part of the All Stars 3 wave. Zazar is still somewhat readily available right now. All I did was kind of paint his armor gold. The head and the feet on this, those were actually sold by a company that I do a lot of work with called Wolf King Customs. So www.wolfkingcustoms.com, they actually sell this head and these feet. And in this particular case, these were painted by a friend of mine. I designed them. A friend of mine named Walter DeMarco, he sculpted them. Wolf King Customs printed them. And another painter that I'm friendly with named Pete Timon, he actually painted these for me on this one. Usually I paint a lot of my own, but in this particular case, I also like to own work by other people. So Pete actually painted this one for me.
And the articulation works like Mythic Legions, normal Mythic Legions, yes.
Yeah, oh yeah, the articulation, let me move ahead. The articulation is all exactly the same. Some customs, you do have to make some sacrifices and lose some articulation, but I try to maintain them. One of the things I always try to do with my customs is make it so they, like I said, really fit in with Mythic Legions. They look like, if you look at them, they don't look like they're a different toy line. They look like they could be official pieces. So I try to maintain that articulation, the kinds of paint applications they use, and so forth.
Okay, what is the step from the beginning to the end to a project for get a figure like that? The step. What is the first step, the second step? Because I saw today on Facebook, you also sometimes you draw your character before you start. What is the process to get the figure?
Yeah, so the first step is designing the parts I want. And sometimes I can, find photos that will show the sculptor what I want. For instance, I do a lot of customs that are anthropomorphic, so they're animals. If I want to do like a rabbit head or a fox head, I'm not necessarily going to draw that out. I'm just going to find the kind of rabbit or the kind of fox, like a real photograph from nature, and say, look, this is what I'm trying to create. So the first step is getting visual reference. A lot of times, if it's something that's a little crazier like this, I do have to sketch it out because I have to be able to tell the 3D sculptor exactly what I'm going for. So I sketch it out, I get photos, whatever. Then I talk to the 3D sculptor and I explain what my vision is. A lot of times when I create parts, I already imagine them on certain figures. So I will show the sculptor, this is the figure I want it on. This is how I'm going to paint it. So I try to explain to that sculptor as much as possible so they know what they're going for. The sculptor then does some rough kind of shapes and some rough things to make sure that they're on the right track. I give them notes along the way and kind of art direct it. If everything's good, they do all the sculpting. Once that's done, it then goes to a 3D printer. The 3D printer has to run it through, do some tests, make sure everything fits. Everything looks good. I get some sample pieces. I test them out. I do some paint tests. I actually put the figure together. And then this is usually a process that takes anywhere from, 2 to 6 months to go from idea all the way to having this in hand. So when you do get to that point where the figure's in hand, it's a pretty cool feeling to have that come to life.
Yeah, I understand very well these feelings because I do something similar for my WWF Hasbro custom figure that I have. Because, for example, when I decide to do, recently I make a custom figure of a Man Mountain Mike. It was a Brazil of the 70th, 601 pounder. And my role is in this project similar of yours because I start to understand which character, which attire, which thing. And I send this picture of my friend, this sculptor, and this feedback after feedback to create the final moment. To recreate, for example, a bunch of 10 custom WWF Hasbro. We started on February and is ready almost on Christmas, for example.
Yeah.
Therefore, I understand this process,
Yes.
your feelings. Therefore, the reason why I'm smiling during your story, because I understand especially your feelings, your passion.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool because you see your touch in something that you love. It's cool. Yeah. It's the feelings of an artist. The same things when I finish a book. When I finish a book, I read the book for the editing time. And it looks like to read a book of another writer,
Yeah.
because is when we create something in general, is a door in another. Looks like the door of the um, of the custom creator of the diorama that I want. The door of
Yeah.
the.
Crash
Uh,
box.
I'm looking forward for that, but it's too late.
Yeah.
Looks like a door like that, the creation, and a door for another world, because with the creativity, the artist open a door in another world that is so close with the real world that we live every day. Okay, it's time for the second custom.
All
We
right.
start with the pictures.
Let's start with a picture. Let me grab one from the list here. Let's do this one.
Thank you everyone to watch the stream later. If you have some question for Jeremy. Wow, this is so cool.
So this is another one that has some custom parts from Wolf King Customs from my friend Len. This is one that I did actually very recently, where he created this, skeleton Spartan-like looking head. And honestly, I did this one afternoon. I had a lot of these parts in my fodder bin. So one of the things when you customize is you end up with all these extra parts. You were talking about opening these Mythic Legions figures, and they have extra weapons and extra hands and extra feet. Well, after you have a lot of these figures, you end up with bins of extra pieces. So I have all these pieces from Mythic Legions, from other toy lines. So there are some times where I create something that I don't even know what I'm creating. I just sit down and I just start putting pieces together to see what happens. Some customs are very, very well planned out. Like the genie I just showed was very well planned out. Other customs are just the pure act of creating.
Wow.
This was one of those where that torso he's wearing, that armor is from an old Clash of the Titans figure by the company NECA, and I had it in my fodder bins for 2 years. It came from a figure that I got at a toy show loose for $3. And I got it and I said, I don't know what I'm going to use this for, but it's cool and I'll find a use someday. And then one afternoon I was messing around and it became the perfect piece that I needed to execute this kind of like undead Spartan warrior.
Awesome. What is the name of this character?
I call this one, it's like Len Gladius. My friend Len at Wolf King Custom, he's the one that created it. So I kind of named it based after him, as well as the kind of sword that he wields, that Gladius style sword.
What is the story of this character, the background story?
So I just imagine this guy is basically being kind of like a fallen, one of these fallen warriors who was cursed and was just, he was so committed to fighting his post and defending the people he had to defend that not even death could keep him from his mission. So he basically was summoned back from the dead. And the necromancer who summoned him regretted his decision because this guy slayed him, and now he's got no mission, and he kind of just roams the realm trying to figure out where he belongs and what his place is, because all he had in life was his mission, the people to protect. So without that, in this new form of like undeath, he doesn't know who he is or what he should be doing.
Oh, awesome. And to create this awesome paint job, so realistic, like Mythic Legion's official, what is the process to create this realistic type of paint job?
It's actually so much easier than it looks. It's one of those things that the effect looks great, this dirty, rusty, kind of nasty effect, but it's so easy to do. It's called dry brushing. So all you have to do is all of the armor here, I just spray painted it black to begin with. So you've got a nice, consistent base color to start with. Then you take a paintbrush, and I'll take a little bit of brown paint. And what you do is you dip the paintbrush in the brown paint. And the reason it's called dry brushing is because you then dry the brush off on a paper towel. You want there to be basically no paint left on that brush, only a little hint of paint. And then as you start to rub that very, very dry brush on the black armor, only a little bit of that starts to come out. You just get a little bit of the detail that comes out. And you just build it on a little bit at a time, and it gives it a really natural, organic type look. So this character has got a ton of dry brushing on him. All of this armor was just black to begin with, and I just brushed on the browns. Then I brushed on a little bit of a metallic gold to give it that nice sheen, and you get this nice, consistent look that really does look like this guy just clawed up from the grave.
Cool. I like also the process that you told before, that when you start with this character, you didn't know what happened during the process. And I like it also because, thank you, Brian. Coming soon will be stop motion for Mythic Legion. I have this project that I start to compose many dioramas. Well, because there is a message, I show the message.
Sure. Oh yeah, I saw it.
Okay, and back to my thinking. When you told me about that, this character, you didn't know what happened during the creation. I truly understand that, because the way I'll work on my novel. When I start a novel, I know nothing. I just listen music. I talked with William Stout in some interview like that. I told to him that it's like to follow in the river of the creativity. You find the story. In your case, you find your character you create. It's so magic that it's the magic of the artist. Discover what happened during the process. It's so cool. It looks like to fall in love with your creativity. It's cool.
To me, it's like, if you're playing music and you're with some people and you're just kind of jamming and you're just playing and you're seeing what happens, and someone starts doing something and you're like, okay, I'm going to play off of that. And you start working off of that. And before you know it, everyone's kind of doing their thing and you create something new. When you started, you didn't know what song you were going to write. You didn't say, this is the exact song we're going to do. With customizing, there are some times where I know what I want to make. I have an image in my head. That's what I'm trying to create. But it's wonderful to just sit back there with all these parts and kind of jam. Just sit there and see what comes out and just mess around with parts, put things on, take stuff off, because that's where the magic happens, where you do something and you don't even know what's going to happen, but it starts to come together, and then all those pieces just gel like the different elements of that band, and before you know it, the song is just out there.
Awesome. Okay, we can start with the next one. If you
Okay.
send me the pictures.
Here comes a picture.
Okay, cool. Also this one.
So this is a character that I call Toxian, the Poison Minotaur. I did this one somewhat recently when the All-Stars 3 figures shipped, because one of the things that I hear a lot of people that are new to customizing say is they're like, I don't have all of these parts to work with, so how am I going to make these customs? So what I did was I did what I called an All-Stars 3 challenge, where I got the Mythic Legion's All-Stars 3 wave, and I took 5 different figures from that wave, and I said, I'm going to make 5 customs only using the parts that are in these 5 packages. I couldn't use other pieces. I could paint them. I could do whatever I wanted to them, but I could only use those parts. And it was a really fun project because I also didn't know what I was going to make. I just started combining things to see what came out. So this particular figure here uses like the armor pieces from a character called Malleus, who's one of the skeleton figures. And then the Minotaur pieces on here started as that black-skinned Minotaur Taurian. That Torian figure from All Stars 3 is a great figure to work with for customs because it's black to begin with. So you can do some dry brushing right on top of the figure and get some really cool looks. I liked this idea of this Minotaur that lives kind of in this like toxic wasteland type area of mythos, and he's so like the poison is seeped into his pores that basically just his breath and everything about him is just totally lethal. And that's what I did. I painted him green. I had painted that axe with a whole bunch of poison looking stuff on it, and this guy became my poison Minotaur.
Awesome, very cool. And we can see also in your hands.
There he is.
Cool. So cool. Now I like also because for every figure you have a different project and different approach to create them. I like it. You don't make the same things for every figure, but you have a different project for each figure. Also to the process, to the beginning, which part use, also to the way to create this character. I like this because it's creative also that to don't, because sometimes, for example, in music, there are many people that, especially when become famous, and write the same song many times, and lost the way to create something new for every album, for example.
Yeah.
And when in the past, I was basically start with a musician. When I was only a musician, I tried to create different song every time as a challenge. You do the same things. You like a musician, they create every time a different song in your style, but different song. I like it. This process.
And I know I definitely have a bit of a style. I'm sure that people can look at my customs and say like that's definitely a Mythic customs piece. But one of the things I love to do is think about parts differently. So if a part comes out, like if one of the custom parts comes out and everyone is using it in one way, I want to do something totally different. I want to do something unexpected. I want people to look at what I create and say, I never would have thought to do that, but now that I see it, it makes perfect sense. Like that really came together well. I want to create things that are new. I want to create things that are unexpected that people see and are just kind of delighted by.
Cool. We can start with the number 4, I believe.
Okay. So this is one that is one of my more popular figures. I've gotten a number of people that have asked either to buy it or asked me to make them one like it. This is my kind of voodoo queen that I call Tiana, Princess of the Frogs. So this was created when the Advent of Decay wave shipped. That was the first time that we had female figures in the line. And I happened to see some artwork that someone did of like the classic Disney princesses, which of course, a lot of the Disney princesses had a life long before Disney movies. A lot of these characters, Ariel, the Little Mermaid, Snow White, these are all from classic fairy tales and folklore. So that, rich history of these types of characters, I said, how can I reimagine some of those characters in the world of Mythic Legion? So I did a whole series of Disney princesses. I called them Mythos princesses. So I did Snow White and I did the Little Mermaid and Cinderella. And when I did this one, this was based off the character of Tiana from the movie The Princess and the Frog. And in that movie, the villain is kind of like a classic, like New Orleans voodoo priest. So I said, you know what? I'm going to combine the hero or, the heroine and the villain. And I'm going to make Tiana like a voodoo priestess. And I called her the Princess of the Frogs. I put her with all my bog goblins. So I imagine her actually leading those kind of bog goblins there. And ultimately, she uses a figure from the line called Hera Serpentspire that's already pretty close to this. Like all that body paint, all those snakes, that's all on Hera already. This was a figure that I didn't have to do a ton to. I repainted her face. I chopped up her hair to give her some different hair and that skull piece on the top. And then I gave her some pieces from Lord of the Rings figures, that skirt, to create the overall look. Glued all those skulls on her, but she still moves perfectly fine to create this really like iconic looking female type character.
Cool. We take a closer look also in your hand. These scars that he has on her pauldrons, how you can create these scars?
So those are actually from the Goblin Legion Builder figure. The Goblin Legion Builder came with an axe that has a skull right on top of it. The skull just pops right off. It's a totally separate piece. I've done so many Goblin customs that I had so many of those skulls lying around that I just took 2 extra ones and just glued them right on top of the pauldrons there to get that kind of look. So she's got, the skull on her cane, the skull on her headdress, the skull on her thing there. She's wearing, skulls. So it really wanted that whole look.
Can you show also the back of the figure?
Sure. So there's the back of the figure. She's got this long trailing cape that goes out behind her.
Which material do you use to the cape? Which material?
So it's actually rubber. This cape and her lower skirt, hold on a second, her lower skirt, those are actually from an old Lord of the Rings figure called Galadriel Entranced. It's in the movie Lord of the Rings when the elf queen Galadriel is being tempted by the ring, and she kind of gets upset and all. That's the figure this came from. So it was actually almost like a ghostly Claire type look. And I repainted the whole thing to get this, to make it look more like dirty, kind of ragged burlap or something.
The hair remember me a little bit Queen Ursa.
It is.
Okay.
So that's what I did. I took 2 figures. That's one of the things with creating these customs is the amount of parts that go into it sometimes, it's pretty extreme. You'll have to get figures and tear them apart just to use one little piece. So this is a Hera Serpentspire head, but Hera Serpentspire has the big ponytail with snakes around it. I didn't want that. So what I did was I took a Queen Ursa, pulled her head apart, combined that here in that headdress with the Hera Serpentspire head to create this new look. And actually the piece in front is from a Lord Adon. So just to make this head.
Yes, I have Lord Adon in my product.
So just to do this head required 3 Mythic Legions figures just to make the head on this.
Awesome. This is so many details, so detailed this figure. And I like also, once again, a new background story in your creativity. So once again, I like it. Every figure, new song, new travel, travel in your creativity.
Something different.
Awesome. We can start with the next one.
All right, this is a fun story. So let me bring him up here. So this is what I call my Tundra Orc or my Frost Orc. So this is a figure that I don't do a lot of commissions. So I do sell some of my customs from time to time, but usually what happens is I sell customs that don't fit in my cases anymore. As I'm constantly upgrading, I'll say, you know what? I'm going to give this one a new home. So I sell stuff that I've made previously for myself that I've decided to part with. I don't do a lot of commissions for other people, but I got someone a while ago that reached out to me and said, would you do a blind box custom? And I said, what? A blind? And he said, I'm not going to tell you what to make. I'm going to trust you as an artist. You make me whatever you want. And I couldn't believe that they trusted me enough to do that. So I said, yeah, that's awesome. I'll totally do that. So they gave me a budget and I asked them some questions because I wanted to make something they would like. So I said first, well, what are you into? What kinds of figures are your favorites? And they like the evil characters. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to make them like a heroic knight or something. And then we were talking and they said, well, I really like orcs and I like this. So I got to the bottom of what they actually liked. And I got this idea that I wanted to use the Kronoff figure, which is like the Masters of the Universe Trapjaw style tribute. I wanted to use that figure with his blue chest and turn it into a Frost Orc. So I got a custom head that was sculpted by a friend of mine called Emil Wickman. I got this custom head from Emil. I took the Kronoff figure in the lower arms and lower legs, which are so unique and really add a lot to this custom. Those came from an old Warcraft figure. So I chopped that figure up, added those in. It still maintains all the articulation. And then I used this head, I painted it to match the body, and I created this Frost Orc figure. And again, the buyer had no idea what he was getting. So I repackaged it, I wrapped it so he wouldn't see what it is when he opened it up, and then he had to tear the wrapping off, kind of like a birthday present, to reveal what he had actually paid for. And he loved it. He absolutely loved the figure so much. I was so happy with the project and being able to do it. But then I realized how much I actually liked the figure as well. So I made one for myself. So I went back, I did it for him, and then I went back and made myself one as well.
Before to watch your and what is the diorama background that you using for these pictures?
So this particular picture, the background there is actually a Batcave playset. They had a line that came out of DC figures called Savage Age, where it was really weird. It was like reimagining like Batman and Aquaman and Superman as if they were like, you know, barbarians and warriors. The style construction was very like vintage Masters of the Universe. It kind of felt like that, but they did a Batcave play set that looked kind of like a castle-y type dungeony thing. And it was really cheap. I got it on clearance, and it worked really well with a little bit of a repaint to use as a background for characters like this.
Cool. And now we take a look of the character.
So again, this is actually not the one in the pictures. The one in the pictures is a little bit different, very similar recipe, but slightly different. But that one in the pictures was the one I sent to the buyer. This one is the one that I actually kept for myself.
Wow, many details. And to create this big looks gloves and
yeah,
gauntlet, which part do you use?
So there was an old line for the video game Warcraft. The line was
okay. I saw in these days. I found on YouTube the movie because of the reason why I'm excited for Mythic Legion. Now this day I watched the trilogy of Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, and I looking for other movie with orcs because difficult. I started to watch Warcraft, but the movie is a little bit the story.
Yeah,
there's something that don't work very well in that movie because it's too much video games and less movie.
Yeah,
and it's not organic. The movie it looks like an episode. I don't know. But I started last time or whatever. Back to the figure. Can you?
Well, they did a line of Warcraft figures called Heroes of the Storm, and they were. I mean, the company that makes Warcraft is Blizzard, so that's why they called it Heroes of the Storm. And they were all these different characters. This was from a character called Arthas. He's like a Lich King, but he's got these boots and these gauntlets that just look very, very, ogre looking, very Arctic looking with all like the fur. So I just modified those. I had to literally slice them apart with an X-Acto blade, drill a hole in it to put the peg from the leg in the hole so they can actually still maintain their movement.
Wow. This is so cool. I like the outfit of this guy. Also the skirt, the chain skirt that he has. Yes. What is this? Where you got this
The chain
skirt?
skirt that came from a Lord of the Rings crossbow Uruk-hai figure. Again, this one figure has parts from probably 8 different toys that are in it. All these different pieces that come together. And one of the things that a lot of people, one compliment that people have paid me many times over the years that is really touching, is when they say that my work feels very cohesive, that even though I use parts from 8 different figures, when you look at the figure, it doesn't look like pieces tacked on. It looks like they all belong. And that's, of course, one of my goals, to make it so the figures that I create look like they belong together.
Yes. If you, for example, I don't know some parts for Warcraft figure or Lord of the Rings so much. I watch the movie, but I don't collect them.
Yep.
So to me, it looks like organic your figure, because looks like that you created with your hands every piece that you get also, and it worked very well.
That's exactly what I'm going for.
Awesome. So we can go with the next one.
So this one is actually similar. It's kind of almost related to that one. So I think it makes sense to do this one next. So on that kind of note of snow Arctic type characters, I did this one. And this one actually uses the same lower legs and lower arms that I just did on the Tundra Orc, but I wanted to see how they would look on a smaller character. How would they look on a goblin? So I actually did this one, which I call my Frost Goblin Wolf Rider. I did a whole bunch of these snow goblins, these Arctic type goblins, right? And this is 2 pieces. So this is this wolf here, this crazy 2-headed wolf.
You create also this wolf?
This wolf actually came from a line called Chat May. It's like it's a line of lower cost figures that they would sell in like big gift packs. I bought this and repainted it. So they usually come with very poor paint apps. So I repainted all the wrapping around his legs and the face and the gums and everything. But then I put this goblin rider on top of him. And I liked the idea of using those same parts, but while they fit really well on the orc, they're a little too big on the goblin, and I like that look because I love the goblins in Mythic Legions. I always imagine them as being kind of like very Muppet-like, very Jim Henson-like. So I like them to be a little bit silly. Them having big hands and big feet, I think is fun. I actually did this figure as a special for Four Horsemen Studios G-Con event 2 years ago. So the first time they ever did G-Con was 3 years ago, and this was before I started working with the studio. I got invited to actually go as a guest. So if you can imagine being a huge fan of Four Horsemen Studios, one day I open up my email and I have an email from Corn Boy saying, "Hey, we love your work. We'd love you to come to the studio and showcase it on our broadcast." So I was over the moon excited to be able to do that. I went, I had a wonderful time. They actually invited me back for the second G-Con. So I went there, and at the first one, I had done a custom that I debuted on the show. So for the second G-Con, I said, I've got to do the same thing. I've got to bring something brand new to show. So that was this guy. And he's got this cool little skull helmet, which actually comes from an old Spawn figure, which was I figured that this was very appropriate to bring a Spawn part with me, since it was the Spawn line that introduced me to the Four Horsemen in the first place.
What is the name of this guy?
Did I give this guy a name? I think I called him Kriz. Krizz.
And the story, the background story for this character?
So I just imagine the Frost Goblins as being this like goblin horde that lives up in the north. they're kind of mostly just concerned with survival, because I imagine that living up there, the conditions are so inhospitable that it's just hard. They've just got to eke an existence out. So this is a guy that is kind of a hunter. He gets on his wolf, and this is the guy they send out to hunt, to figure out where all of the enemies are, where the hunt's going to be, how they're going to go and get food. So this is the guy that kind of provides the food for his kind of frost goblin clan.
And where do you get the fur cape?
So this is from Mythic Legions. This is from the figure called Fallon Frostbow. It's a great piece. It's really a lot of times when you see soft goods, the sizing looks a little bit off. The Four Horsemen do soft goods really, really well. So this was a piece that came with a female like frost elf figure that I used. I used a bunch of them for customs as well. So I had extras. So I put it on here, and I like the way that it kind of hangs down the wolf. It feels very organic in a way that like a plastic cape wouldn't.
Wow, cool. Very good. I love it. We can go. I consideration before, because you told your surprise. You told your surprise when you got an invitation by Convoy. Yeah. I'm not surprised for that, because I understand. I meet in another interview Convoy, and he's an authentic artist, Eric, for that.
Yeah.
And when you are an authentic artist, you understand when you have in front of you another artist. It's like that, because the artist recognized another true artist, because we have the same feelings and the same way to understand this stuff, figure, everything, general, the creation.
Yeah.
And the reason why I want you in this show, because I watched your custom.
Yeah.
And I'm an artist in other way. However, when I find an artist, I say this is an artist, also because now I'm so excited for Mythic Legions.
Yeah.
But also because I see this guy is an artist. I want this guy in my show because he's an artist. And also, I like also this community, because Mythic Legions figure line is a creative line.
Yeah.
Therefore, if you like Mythic Legions in general, also if you don't made any type of artist, there is some artist inside of you, because is a big push in your creativity, the Mythic Legions in general. Is the reason why we have an artist like you in this fandom. And therefore, I like that. Is looks like a fair tale a little bit. Yeah. That your relationship also with your work with Horsemen on the website start with your piece of art, your figure. It's perfect. It's a perfect story. I like it.
It was incredible. So that second G-Con that I got invited to before the broadcast, I was there, and I was just talking behind the scenes, actually with Jim at Four Horsemen Studios, and he happened to ask me what I do, what my profession is, and I'm a web designer, so I design and I do digital marketing. And he looked at me and he said, "Hey, why aren't you helping us with that?" And I had never wanted, they definitely needed help with it, but I had never wanted to be that guy that said like, "Oh, you should work with me." I wanted to be a little more unassuming. But they said, "No, we would love, you understand Mythic Legions, you get it. You approach the line in a way that we don't. We're so close to it. You understand it from a different perspective." So I started talking to them about my ideas for what I would do with the website and the digital presence. And like you said, creative people, they speak the same language, whether they're, authors, artists, musicians, toy makers. Creativity speaks the language of creativity. We understood each other. I gave them ideas, and I mean, I'll be honest, they've been wonderful to work with, because they they are passionate about what they do as well. So when they see the passion from the community, the passion from me, they feed off it as well. And yeah, it has been absolutely a wild time for me, going from a super fan to being able to be involved in the studio in some small way and help them kind of, evangelize Mythic Legions to the world.
Also, because I imagine that because you work on a website, when we have a new wave, before everyone the new wave.
I do. It is pretty cool. It is pretty awesome. I'm going to tell you, when I get to see all those pictures in advance, but I gotta be quiet. That's the whole thing. Is I do a weekly show on YouTube. And it's a live show. It's unscripted. And I'm always terrified that I'm going to slip up and say something I'm not supposed to. But so far, I've been good, knock on wood. But yeah, being able to see all that stuff early, being able to talk to them and find out what the plans are. That's why I tell people, I'm like, if you like Mythic Legions now, you haven't seen anything yet. There's so much cool stuff coming that is just going to blow people away.
We talk about that is coming soon. Also, the Cosmic Legions, another project.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah.
The sky is the limit
as well. The sky is really the limit. Absolutely.
It's cool. We go to the next one.
We got a few more left here. You told me to get 10, so
I believe that you need to come back for other 10 in the future.
Absolutely, I'd love to come back in the future.
Wow! This is the type of character that I like. Before to understand what is the story, everything, this is the type of the character I like, because big guy with this face is unbelievable. Tell me the story for this guy.
So this is a guy that I call Pum, P-U-M, and he's just a big kind of, not very bright hill giant. Just a classic, those classic Dungeons and Dragons kind of monsters that you fight. I remember playing Dungeons and Dragons as a kid, and characters like goblins and hill giants and so forth. They're kind of put in your way just to impede your quest, what you're trying to accomplish. So I always loved those type of characters. This was a custom that I did a little while ago, about a year ago or so, I would say, and I did it to try to challenge myself because I don't like painting pieces like this. I don't like painting realistic faces, dwarves, any of those type of characters, human faces. They're very, very hard to do. It's so much easier to paint, one of my animal characters, or to paint a goblin, or even an orc. Orcs and goblins in Mythic Legions, they have all yellow eyes. So painting completely yellow eyes is so much easier than trying to paint eyes like this that need to have a sense of realism to them. But one of the things I've always learned, I've always felt as an artist, is if you only do what you're good at already, you'll never get better at anything else.
I'm agree with you.
You've got to challenge yourself. You've got to say, I don't know how to do this piece. That is why I'm going to do this piece. I'm going to do it. And if I mess up, that's okay, because it's going to get me that much further to where I need to be to get it right. I've always believed that when it comes to any kind of creative endeavor, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to get better every single time until you get to the point that you're like, you look at it and you say, wow, that really came out. I'm happy with this. I painted a lot of realistic looking faces before this one that I was not happy with, that ended up, I didn't end up using them. There's a lot of them that I got rid of or painted over or whatever. But this was one that I challenged myself, and I absolutely loved the end result. The head and the big torso, they are sculpted by a company called Planetary Dog Toys, two artists named Saba and Julie that just do wonderful work. And when I put this together, it had so much personality in that face that I was so happy with the end result.
And what is the backstory for this guy?
Again, I just imagine him as kind of being a dim-witted type character that lives in the hills and just unfortunate kind of, adventurers that come across him. He's always kind of hungry. He's always looking for a little person to kind of grab. Most people are little to him since he's so big. So I imagine that this is just the kind of guy that you're a hapless adventurer and he stumbles into your camp and he's probably the last thing you see before he clops you on the head with this giant club here.
He has also an articulation for the upper body. You can rotate the upper body.
No,
because
it's just
this big girl.
It's one piece here. So this torso is a custom torso. It's a custom 3D printed torso. So it actually, the way that the belly hangs over, it kind of keeps it in one spot. It doesn't really, like the normal ogres move there. This, it kind of keeps it nice and solid, but it gives it a really good look because we don't have any of these like kind of fat bodies in the line officially. So this is an example of, a 3D artist giving us something in the line that adds to our enjoyment of it.
Yes, and basically it's my favorite of these 10 because I like this type of character, this giants.
You like this type of character, okay.
Yes, also because we in the Mythic Legions official, a big fat guy like this one we haven't.
Not yet. I mean, I can imagine eventually, that's one of the things with Mythic Legions is obviously since the earliest days, a big part of it is having a limited amount of parts that they use in lots of different ways. So if they design a new part, it's got to be something they can use over and over again. So to do that, they had to go a little bit more generic up front with, muscle torso, armored body, skeleton arms, or whatever. Now, as the line has gotten more successful, they're starting, you can see, to branch out and do other things that are going to have a little bit more flexibility, I think, for them.
Yes, the library of the parts growing up, because I remember the stream that you did with Horsemen when it was revealed the new wave.
Yep.
We have some new part now for the armor.
Yeah,
it's cool. I get some of this guy for my project. I got the Dwarf Legion builder, and I like also the accessory pack of the ogre. I got half giants and the accessory pack because I want this final character with this blonde beard. Yeah, I got that. And also the Barbarian Legion builder for my project. These three because I have a project also with a story. Okay.
Yeah. So those characters work.
Yeah, exactly. We have other. How many we have? Because I'm not good with the numbers. Before I forget how many.
I've got 3 left. Do you want to keep going?
Yes, we continue.
All
Give
right.
me the number.
I got 3 left. So this is one I mentioned, earlier that I like the animal characters. I like the anthropomorphic characters. I also have, like I said, started.
And again, once again, this door that they can buy.
The door that you like, that diorama is from Crashbox Customs.
Yes, but it's sold out.
So the first custom head that I actually designed and I worked with a team to make was it was a fox head. So I really wanted a fox head. I call it a kitsune. So kitsune is the Japanese word for fox. And in Japanese folklore, there's a rich tradition of these kind of like trickster fox spirits called kitsune. So I really wanted one of those for myself. And when I first started doing this, I sketched it out. I worked with a 3D artist named Mass Customs, Walter DeMarco is his name. And we worked together and I did it for me. Like I wanted this piece for myself. I had no designs on anybody else being able to have this for their collection. I didn't imagine selling this part and producing it. When I worked with a 3D printer, Wolf King Customs, to actually put that part out, he said to me, you know what? I want to start a company. I want to start offering these parts. Would you mind if I sell this fox head? And I said, no, absolutely. Go ahead. And I never would have expected the reaction that it got. So many people embraced it. So many people bought them for their own collections, did their own takes on them. So as an artist, being able to create something and then put it out in the world and see all of these other artists remix it and do things different that you never thought of, it was awesome. It's what I imagine the Four Horsemen feel every day when they see people like me customize. They put these products in the world and we take them and we make new things out of them. And they look at them and they go, look how cool that is. That happened to me. It's been an amazing experience over the last year. I've been able to work with Wolf King Customs and now with a new company that myself and my friend Joe, you mentioned Lord Viteris, the actual guy that Lord Viteris is based on. He's my partner. We put on the Legion's Con Conference, and we own a website called Legion Shop, where we sell all of these products from all these different artists to the Mythic community. So as part of that, I created these Fox characters. These Fox characters have kind of become my signature pieces. And the storyline that I created for these Foxes is actually based on an old Japanese manga called Lone Wolf and Cub. I reimagined that story, which is a classic story of, a man who is betrayed by those he trusts and has to basically go out and seek revenge as he's a samurai. I imagined that, but with foxes. So in Lone Wolf and Cub, some of the bad guys are this like army of ninja assassins. So I said, well, what would a ninja look like if it was actually a fox? So that's what this is. This is actually basically a fox head that is fully made into like a ninja mask. And then I got this other piece here that was done by my friend Anthony at Toy Forge. He made these special swords for me that have little foxes on the end, so I can give my little fox ninja these little swords that go perfectly with this.
Awesome.
And this is just the body here. This is just a Goblin Legion Builder body from Mythic Legions. All I did was, he normally has little armor on his elbows. I pulled the armor off his elbows to make his arms nice and sleek, and I glued them up here to change the look of the armor and make it look more like a ninja outfit. And I got my little ninja fox or ninja kid.
Maybe we can start with, looks like a teenage fox ninja, looks like.
Teenage fox ninja. There we go.
Awesome. I like also that you create something different also, because there's nothing Japanese inspired in the Mythic Legions. Therefore, it's another way, another landscape for the Mythic Legions community that there wasn't before. Therefore, it's cool. I like it.
Yeah, I love to draw for my customs on different kinds of folklore, different kinds of different influences from around the world. So whether that's like Norse mythology and like Vikings, whether that's, Japanese style mythology, there's so much rich design iconography in those different cultures that bringing those into Mythic Legions and using them, that's a great way to create new feels.
Awesome. We can go to the next one.
All right. So this is one that I call my Wasteland Ravager. And I did this one when Mythic Legions released the Wasteland line.
Okay. Cool.
So the Wasteland line, the story behind that is it was supposed to be kind of like, an area of mythos that was destroyed and it was toxic and it was just horrible. A horrible battle had left it just barren. This particular head that I use here, this is from a figure called Hagnon, and Hagnon is glow-in-the-dark transparent. So if you look at that ghostly Hagnon figure, you can't see what a wonderful sculpture the head actually is because it's got no paint on it. So I always wanted to paint that sculpture to bring out the details. Eric Treadaway from the Horsemen sculpted a wonderful piece here that I don't think people fully appreciated. So I imagine they were going to use this zombie head in the Wasteland Wave to create a character like this, kind of like a burnt earth type zombie. And when they didn't, I said, you know what? I'm going to do it myself. So my challenge with this figure was no outside parts. Every part of this figure has to be Mythic Legions. He has to come with 3 weapons, just like a Mythic Legions figure would. So everything on this is actually from the officially Mythic Legions line, and he's got his 3 weapons.
The fur is the fur of King Brandon.
It is. Yep. The King Brandon fur. I did 2 different mismatched armor pieces here. Like I said, the head is that Hagnon head that's totally repainted to look like that zombie.
Cool. So cool. Can you show me again a little bit near the screen once again? Very cool. Oh, you have the same, when I watch your figure, it's the same feelings of the official Mythic Legions. Looks like a real, they are realistic, like to see some character jump out on the screen. Yeah. I like this type of, you create something personal, but with the same philosophy. Therefore, I understand why the community on the Cabal in general, Mythic Legions community, like so much and support your work, because you create something new, but still in the same philosophy, realistic, detailed, and over the fantasy world. But you explore also some different land, like we saw before with the Ninja Fox. Huh?
Yeah,
and exactly. I like that.
Well, that's what I try to do. You know, I want the pieces to feel like they fit, like I said. So what I do is I look at the way Mythic Legions are actually painted, the way that they're created, and I try to honor that. An easy example is if you look at Mythic Legions figures, they don't have blood, okay? And that's intentional. You know, they could totally make these bloody type characters, you know, orcs that are dripping with blood just out of battle, but that's not what they want to do. There's a rich history of that type of art in fantasy, but for Mythic Legions, they want it to be PG. They want it to be a family-friendly line, and they've done a wonderful job doing that. So that's something that I use. I say, hey, if they were creating this at the studio, how would they paint it? How would they do it? What design decisions would they make? And I try to use that thought process to design the things that I do as well.
Cool. We can go to the next one.
So this is the last one I've got. This is the 10th one.
Okay. Sorry, because I'm not good with the numbers. For example, if you show me 5 figures or 10 figures, I start to count, and every time I give you a different number because I'm good with the words, especially in Italian because I'm Italian. But with the mathematics, I believe in general. Well, when I was a kid, I was bad for that. I'm not good for the numbers because I don't know why.
No problem.
So cool. I believe, guys, that if you have some question, but now I see
I've got one more. I've got one more that I've got sharing right now. I've got the photo of it if you want to share it.
Okay, give me this one.
I just did. I shared it up there. You just got to put it.
Okay. I get now the
there it is. So this is the last one I'll show tonight. This is one of my favorite figures in the line is from the Advent of Decay wave, and it's a character called Grisha the Slitherer. As soon as I saw that figure, I love the design. The really crazy, helmet design reminded me of like St. Basil's Cathedral in Russia. Just the look of the face with the T-visor kind of reminds me of Boba Fett from Star Wars. The character is an assassin. The character is part of the Sons of the Red Star, which is my favorite faction. So all those things together, I loved the character of Grisha. So one of the things that the Four Horsemen have not done in the line that a lot of other toy lines do is do alternate versions of the same character. We've just started to see that. We've just gotten the second Baron Valigar and the second Artemis Silvercord. But you look at other toy lines and you've got, Night Operations Batman and Jetwing Batman, and you've got, Aqua Wolverine. You've got all of these different versions of the characters. The Horsemen haven't done that. So I did. I said, Grisha is supposed to be an assassin, but the character is in this like bright reddish armor. So I said, what would Grisha look like if it was like stealth Grisha, like shadow Grisha? If it was all black with just some of that blue armor, this is the original blue color of the helmet. So what I did was I just repainted everything black. I used some soft goods from a Lord of the Ring figure. This is from a Star Wars Black Series figure. This armor is from an old Spawn figure. And I just kind of created a slightly new design off of the original one. It looks really similar, but it's unique enough that it's got a different feel to it, that it looks like a secondary version of that character.
I think that if you continue like that, you will become sooner the fifth Horseman. However, once again, was also this figure is organic, because if you, in the feelings that you have in everything that you created, that is everything match very well, every part.
Yeah.
If you don't know what's going on, what is the part that you put together, looks like that you create every part for this character because fit perfectly. And I like it because, and the reason why, because an artist has also the vision. It looks like when I create a novel, every chapter, I don't know what happened, but later when I read the first time, I understand that every part fit well in the story. Yeah. It's the same things. When you create a character, you create a story, yes, basically, and the story works very well. And I like that because the results of your instinct, your creativity. No, something that you discover maybe sometimes later, but work perfect because your talent put you in the perfect way to do the perfect figure.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you also to be in this show. If you have some questions, this is the time, because I saw many comments. Justin remembered my interview with Cornboy. Yeah. Maybe I show some comments. There is about the scale.
Yeah.
Justin says that is interesting. Once they get a TV show or comic, more people will know about it. Yeah. Because we talked earlier. Imagine a series of animation series of Mythic Legions could be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the video game is in progress right now. So the Mythic Legions Tactics, the goal is that Tactics is going to introduce the Mythic Legions property to a whole new audience of people that have never experienced the toys. But I mean, the line is growing. So this past weekend, we just did a big show in New Jersey called ToyCon that, I was there, the Horsemen were there, we had the table. And when the doors opened on Saturday, the people rushed right to the Four Horsemen booth. There was a nonstop line at the Four Horsemen booth for 3.5 hours. Awesome. 3.5 hours nonstop people. Hey, I mean, and they had 3 like 10-foot tables. So it was 30 feet of table, and just the line went all the way around the building, outside, down the street of people waiting to get in. So everyone says, like, a lot of people don't know about Mythic Legions yet, but I'll tell you, if it keeps growing and getting bigger, it is going to be insane because the fans are so incredibly cool, so incredibly passionate. Yes. They would wait in line for 3.5 hours to meet the Horsemen.
It's a strong community, I believe.
Incredible.
Because I started in a few months in this community because I started this project, and I like because we told that before, because it's different. Mythic Legions is not like the other line, and the fandom of Mythic Legions is different, and we have many artists in the fandom. It's not casual. And also there is a shout out for you, Hey Everyone, by Eric, to support our brother.
You, Eric. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, other message for both. And however, there is another comments now. Eric is Jeremy is an inspiration that makes us have fun with our customs. This is a big goal for you.
Yeah, that's the amount of people that reach out to me and tell me that I've helped inspire them to do this, to enjoy people that are like, I've collected toys for years, I never thought to customize. You gave me the inspiration and the courage to do so. I mean, at that Toy-Con show last week, I met a lot of fans that thanked me for what I do, told me I inspired them. And I mean, as an artist, you can't touch an artist any more than saying you've inspired me to do it as well. That is absolutely incredible. Thank you to everyone that shares that comment with me. I'm incredibly honored that you enjoy my work and it's helped inspire your own.
There is another comment. I hope about you. It shows the purple squid face custom that I saw at Toy-Con.
I didn't have that. Wasn't one of the ones I selected tonight, but I do have that back up there.
And there is a comments for your figure before.
Yep, Toxie and the poison minotaur.
There is some comments about you also.
Yeah.
Because this is a guy that follow me, and now also it's interesting because the people that follow me now discover you. And this is
vice versa. Yeah.
Vice versa.
Yeah. I mean, I do my show every single week, so I know there's going to be a lot of people that tune into my show that when I told them that I was going to be here, I helped introduce that as well. So that's one of the great things about doing stuff like this, that crossover where audiences get introduced.
It's awesome. Also, if you want me in your show as a guest, I'm available when you want.
That sounds wonderful. We'll have to set that up.
And also, I want you back with other 10 figures because it's interesting because it's like to discover something new and also interesting to understand the story behind.
Absolutely.
Because you have for each figure you told me awesome story, also background story is awesome.
Good.
I like it because you
do it.
Thank you so much. This part talks about Mythic Legions, Whiplash version of Count Mars, because Damian is a big fan of Master of the Universe, like me also.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and there's a new Stinkor. There's kind of a Stinkor tribute in the All-Stars 4 wave. And I mean, they've obviously shown that the PowerCon, those are called the PowerCon debut figures of the PowerCon tributes. Those have been super popular. So I don't think those will be going away anytime soon.
And do you like also Master of the Universe, I believe?
I do. I mean, I grew up playing with that. I grew up a child of the 80s. So I played, Master Universe, Transformers, G.I. Joe, Star Wars. So all of that stuff, that is how I started playing with action figures. And that influences my collection today. I mean, it's probably why I get along so well with the Horsemen, because they grew up with all that stuff as well. When I talk to like Eric Treadaway and I talk about the toys of my childhood, they're the same toys as his childhood. So we kind of come from that same perspective, which, gives us that similar thinking, I think.
And speaking of Master of the Universe, I'm a big fan of the Filmation cartoon and also the work that Horsemen did with Super 7 for Club Grayskull, the Filmation line. Yeah. And this is maybe a sad side of the moon for that, because now Mattel create new masters and stop Super 7 to do more for that.
Yeah.
And also stop for Horsemen, basically, because for Horsemen work behind the Super 7 stuff for Master of the Universe. And this is sad because many people like the Clive Grayskull, that the figure that made for Horsemen along with Super 7. And to me, for example, I don't care so much for, Moto Origins looks like a updated version with more articulation of vintage one, but like that. Yeah. The new Masterverse, yes, they are cool figure, but for the fan base like the Filmation one and sell very well. All the William Stout collection. I talked with William Stout in my interview also. He told me that they sell very well the figure for Horsemen Super Segregated for William Stout. And Mattel never had that figure because there was some problem between William Stout and Mattel. Yeah. And they stop everything because it's typical of the big guys. The big guys want to rise like the giants, your figures. When they're at a little town, destroy everything because I'm the big guy. I'm the under the giants of the moment.
Sure.
Okay. Now I believe that it's time. There is a question now. Yes. Do you think we'll ever see any of Horsemen former business associate feature ML fixed in their lines, a McFarlane set of ML tributes, or a cameo by ML character in multiple episode.
Who knows? I mean, who knows what the future will hold if they'll do any kind of crossovers like that and let some of their characters be tributes in other lines. Maybe if it keeps getting bigger and bigger, some of those lines will want to do it again. We'll see.
Okay, and now the last question, because to go to the piano. What is the type of character that you never made until now? Only the type, race, not just the character, but the type of the character that maybe you want in the future to create.
So the type that I haven't made that I want me to do, or that I want the Horsemen to do.
That I want you.
Okay. One race I've never done really a lot with, I guess, would be kind of like lizard men. A lot of people have asked about reptilian type characters, and even though I've done a lot of animals, I've never really done reptilians. So that's probably one that at some point I'm going to have to figure out how to do. So I guess I would say that reptile, lizardy type snake characters.
Okay, guys, stay tuned because it's possible coming soon. A reptile character by Jeremy. And now, my friends, it's time to say goodbye. But don't cry because Jeremy will come back sooner than ever. And go to also to Mythic Custom channel to watch his weekly show because maybe I will be hosting some show of him. And thank you so much. And don't forget, my friends, coming soon also more for Mythic Legion this channel. I will continue with my unboxing review, a stop motion, and a secret project. If you want to understand what is a secret project, follow every video because we'll be revealed only in the final video. Thank you, Jeremy. Thanks for watching, my friends, and so long!